Every NBA season has that one trade that makes fans question reality. This year, the basketball world was hit with a shocker: De'Aaron Fox to the Spurs. A franchise-changing move for San Antonio, a highly questionable decision by Sacramento, and a surprising win for the Bulls. Let's break this down, step by step, and see who really came out on top. So what went down exactly? First of all, San Antonio Spurs received De'Aaron Fox, Jordan McLaughlin. Sacramento Kings received Zach LaVine, Sidy Cissoko, one first-round pick, and a few multiple second-round picks. And Chicago Bulls received Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter. Okay, now let's unpack this madness. If you're a Spurs fan, take a moment to appreciate what your front office just pulled off. We're talking about De'Aaron Fox, obviously. They landed an elite point guard without giving up a single top young player or a valuable draft asset. Stephon Castle, still here. Devin Vassell, still here. Keldon Johnson, yup, still here. Victor Wembanyama, obviously untouchable. The only significant pick they lost was a 2031 first rounder from the Timberwolves, which, let's be real, will probably be in the 20s. So let's get this straight. The Spurs turned DeJounte Murray into Fox and Wemby in just 3 years. So how did the Spurs pull this off? Let's rewind a few years. The Spurs were stuck in basketball purgatory, not quite good enough to contend, not quite bad enough to tank properly. They had DeJounte Murray as their best player, but they knew something most teams refuse to admit: being mediocre is the worst place to be. So what did they do? They did the unthinkable. They traded Murray at his peak value to Atlanta for multiple first-round picks. At the time, people thought, what are the Spurs doing? Why would you trade your best player? Well, fast forward to now, and here's what happened. Basically, they traded Murray to the Hawks for multiple first-round picks, then used those picks to maneuver their way into the Wemby sweepstakes. Built a young, exciting core with the flexibility to make a big move. And when the Kings panicked, the Spurs pounced. And now, Wembanyama finally gets a point guard who can run the offense, push the pace, and deliver in the clutch. This isn't a normal duo. Imagine being an opposing defender. Fox is blowing past you at lightning speed, and if you somehow recover, you're now stuck trying to guard a 7'4" alien with elite footwork. Good luck with that. Fox's elite clutch ability also matters. Remember his 2023 playoff series versus the Warriors? He averaged around 27 points, 8 assists, and played through injury like a warrior. Now, he gets to lead a young Spurs team that's on the rise. This wasn't just a trade, this was a franchise-altering move. On the other hand, Sacramento Kings, what on earth are they doing? Let's be clear, De'Aaron Fox was the heart and soul of the Kings. Fox was selected with the 5th overall pick in the 2017 NBA Draft. He was their best player since Chris Webber, their leader, and the guy who finally ended their 16-year playoff drought. In 2023, he led the Kings to their first playoff appearance in 17 years, won the inaugural Clutch Player of the Year award, became a first-time NBA All-Star, and had one of the best playoff debuts ever. So why did Sacramento dump him for Zach LaVine and some picks? Well, according to the Kings' logic, they wanted more scoring. Even though they already have Domantas Sabonis and Kevin Huerter, they wanted to shake things up. That's not always a good thing. They thought LaVine would fit better alongside Sabonis. Alright, but here's the issue. LaVine doesn't play defense. Sacramento's biggest problem was stopping teams from scoring, and now they've added a player who makes that worse. LaVine needs the ball to be effective. Sabonis is a playmaker. Malik Monk runs the offense. Keegan Murray needs touches. Where does LaVine fit in all of this? This is literally the failed Bulls duo of DeRozan and LaVine, except in Sacramento. Look, if the Kings wanted to move on from Fox, fine. But why rush? They could have waited for the summer, shopped Fox around, and gotten a much better return. There's always a good possibility in that type of scenario. Instead, they panic traded their best player for a flawed, injury-prone scorer with a massive contract. So the question is, could this work? There's always a chance that LaVine suddenly finds a new gear in Sacramento. Maybe Sabonis helps mask his weaknesses. Maybe Keegan Murray takes a leap. But from where we're standing, this looks like a disaster waiting to happen. Now, let's switch gears to the Chicago Bulls, who finally did something smart. For the past few years, the Bulls have been stuck in NBA purgatory, not good enough to contend, but not bad enough to rebuild. This trade finally gives them direction. What did the Bulls gain? First of all, they cleared Zach LaVine's massive contract. He was already seen as untradeable just a year ago. Then they got back 3 solid role players, Collins, Jones, and Huerter, all useful pieces, and regained their own first-round pick, which is huge for a potential rebuild. This is just the beginning. The Bulls can now trade Nikola Vucevic. His value isn't high, but they need to move on. They can move Lonzo Ball's contract if they can find a taker and finally commit to tanking, which, let's be honest, they should have done years ago. But at least Bulls fans finally have some clarity, unlike Kings fans who are probably still in shock. Now, a lot of people might think, why didn't the Spurs trade for Luka Doncic instead? Before the Fox trade happened, there was speculation of this matter. Let's be real, Luka running pick and rolls with Wembanyama would have been straight up unfair. But here's the problem, the Mavericks didn't even shop Luka around. Dallas only called one team, the Lakers, because they wanted to avoid a bidding war and media circus. The result, a shocking, underwhelming Luka trade to LA Spurs fans never even had a chance. Mavericks fans were so furious they staged a protest outside the arena. The Fox trade might not be Luka level, but it's still a massive win for San Antonio. So how did the Spurs win this trade negotiation? The Spurs knew the Kings were in a weird spot. They knew that Fox wanted to play with Wemby and Sacramento had limited options. Technically, San Antonio lowballed them, knowing they had leverage. And it worked. The Kings took the deal and the Spurs walked away with an elite point guard for pennies on the dollar. The Bulls helped facilitate the deal, but San Antonio was the real winner here. This was straight out of a Hollywood movie. But the Spurs aren't done right here. The Spurs still own the Hawks' first-round picks in the next few years. If Fox isn't good enough to be a championship level number 2, the Spurs still have the flexibility to make another move. For now though, Wemby and Fox are going to be a nightmare duo. Fox's ability to push the tempo, create shots, and close games gives the Spurs something they desperately need. Now the Spurs are officially on the rise, while the Kings might have taken themselves out of contention and the Bulls finally have a direction. Some teams stay great, some teams stay bad. This trade showed us exactly why. The Spurs won the jackpot, the Kings dropped the ball, and the Bulls actually made a smart move for once. NBA trades don't always make sense, but one thing is clear, the Spurs just pulled off a franchise-altering move, while the Kings might have just set themselves back years. And for Bulls fans, at least you finally know what direction your team is headed. What are your thoughts on this trade? Let us know in the comments down below. Speaking of this trade, the Dallas Mavericks traded Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis. Click on this video to find out exactly what and how this trade happened.